The Shawshank Redemption is a psychic blueprint, a myth told in denim and concrete. Behind every bar, beneath every corridor's shadow, a symbol waits, a fracture, a calling. Andy Dufresne isn't the typical Hollywood hero. He doesn't conquer with force or charm. He observes, he endures, he chisels through silence. Andy embodies the ego, the conscious self, plunged into the underworld, discovering meaning in the heart of despair. His false conviction becomes the trauma that initiates transformation. Red, often labeled the foil, carries something deeper. He is the shadow, wise, weary, wounded. The voice within that understands systems built to break us. The one who guards against hope, scarred by its absence. Through his narration, we hear the soul reaching back toward wholeness. Zihuatanejo shimmers as self. The integrated psyche, the sacred reunion beyond the threshold, a memory. This story doesn't revolve around escape. It reveals the path of return. Welcome to a descent through silence and shadow, through archons and archetypes. This is the Gnosis of Shawshank. Andy Dufresne enters Shawshank fractured. His life, once defined by logic, order, and routine, is obliterated by a false conviction, a trauma that tears open the shell of a constructed identity. In Jungian terms, this is the disruption of the ego's illusion of control. The archetypal descent begins here, with a collapse. But Andy does not collapse. Where others break, he watches. Where others lash out, he listens. There is something restrained, almost alchemical, about his silence. This is presence. The ego, wounded but awake, begins the slow art of individuation. Andy doesn't resist blindly. He studies. He learns the patterns, learns the players, and adapts with care. He becomes a student of confinement, so he can transcend it. This is the hallmark of the centered psyche. Observation over reaction. Andy redirects his energy into purpose. He begins with simple acts, helping with taxes, shaping the library, befriending Red. Each gesture becomes a ritual of selfhood. Brick by brick, he constructs a cathedral within, a sanctuary untouched by iron bars. The prison, brutal and indifferent, surrounds him, but does not define him. While the walls remain, his perception of self begins to evolve. He reclaims the right to define himself from within. Identity, once shattered, is now sculpted from intent, patience, and vision. This is the ego remembering it has depth. Andy's individuation begins with loss. His fall strips away the surface layers of identity. And in the silence that follows, something begins to stir. Not a scream for justice, but a whisper of purpose, a vow to become. He chisels and writes. He teaches and waits. Every act is quiet defiance. Every day, a step deeper into himself. This is the work of the soul in captivity, the sacred labor of awakening. The tunnel is already forming, even if no one else sees it yet. Red is the story, and his voice frames the journey as the wounded witness. The tone is lived in, scarred. It carries the weight of a man who has seen too much, waited too long, and forgotten what freedom feels like. In Jungian terms, Red is the shadow. Not the villainous aspect, but the weary archetype that adapts to survival, long after the soul has stopped reaching. He is wise, insightful, charismatic, but he is also shackled by belief, the belief that change is a lie, that escape is fantasy, that hope is a sickness. Hope is a dangerous thing, he says, and in that moment we hear it. the trauma. Hope isn't dangerous because it's naive. It's dangerous because it reminds him of what he once had the courage to imagine, and what he lost. Red has learned the system too well. He's fluent in its rhythms, loyal to its logic. He plays the game because belief hurts more. The longer one stays in captivity, the more the psyche adapts itself to survive. The shadow, when left unaided, reshapes itself to the cell. Yet it is Red who watches, who remembers, who narrates. This is crucial, because the shadow, when witnessed, begins to transform. And in Andy, Red sees something foreign, something luminous. In Andy, Red glimpses a version of himself he had long buried, a self still capable of reaching, dreaming, transforming. Andy embodies a quiet defiance that Red had long abandoned, and slowly that light stirs an ache inside the shadow, a flicker of the sacred discontent. Red's parole hearings become a ritual of futility, rehearsed persona, polished lines, and expected rejection. He performs the script so well, it ceases to mean anything. But when Andy leaves, the script breaks. When the postcard arrives, the voice changes. Red is the part of us that survives because it stops dreaming. But he also becomes the part that dares to begin again, but with the yearning of one who remembers. His story is the second path of individuation, the path that awakens through witnessing another walk the way. He is the shadow, narrated into transformation. Shawshank functions as a psychic architecture, a living machine designed to erode the soul. It is the anti-individuation structure, a world where routine replaces reflection, where obedience is rewarded and inner truth is slowly buried beneath layers of survival. At its center stands the Warden, a man of scripture and control. His moral veneer cloaks a tyrannical will. He embodies the corrupted persona, the mask worn so long it forgets its falseness. In Gnostic terms, he is the Demiurge, a false creator who imposes order to dominate. His faith, rigid and weaponized, justifies cruelty. He reads the Bible while laundering blood money, smiles while silencing dissent. He uses virtue as camouflage, scripture as control. His authority thrives by convincing others that submission is sanctified. He transcends villainy, he is righteous. Beneath him are the guards, the archons, unquestioning enforcers of illusion. They are keepers of the dreamless state, guardians of a psyche lulled into inertia. They maintain the system through repetition and fear. Their task is slow domestication. The beatings are predictable, the silence between them more corrosive. And then there is Brooks. Sweet, gentle, forgotten Brooks. The soul who endured the fire but couldn't find the way back home. He represents the initiate unequipped for reintegration. His time inside gave him routine but not wholeness. The inner work was never offered, only rules. After decades of captivity, freedom arrives as dissonance. The world outside moves too fast, too loud, too unfeeling. Brooks steps out of Plato's cave and meets vertigo, not light. His tragedy is misalignment. The institution dissolved his autonomy and replaced it with dependency. Without the system, he has no self to return to. Shawshank's control thrives through spiritual erosion. It shapes the psyche to self-police, to trade the inner voice for the ease of predictability. The soul is slowly taught to forget its fire. The Archonic power lies in subtlety. No visible chains, only internalized control. The inmates wear their own collars. Yet beneath all that structure, a seed remains. And it only takes one man to remember the way out. Andy's escape begins long before he touches the tunnel wall. It begins with the first decision to observe, to listen, to wait. His resistance takes no dramatic form, no speeches, no revolts. His defiance is internal. The plan he conceives unfolds over years, shaped by patience, clarity, and unwavering presence. This is the path of true integration. Every detail, every act, every tool becomes part of the ritual. This is shadow work through service. The tunnel he carves through the wall is a descent into the unconscious. It leads through filth and darkness, where the illusions of purity dissolve and the truth of the psyche reveals itself. Each inch forward becomes a confrontation with the repressed, the discarded emotions, the buried pain, the collective waste. Andy does not bypass this muck. He moves through it. He immerses himself in what others refuse to touch. This is descent as transformation. When he emerges, it is through storm and chaos. Lightning cracks across the sky. Rain pours down in waves. Nature rises in full force as if to witness his rebirth. The storm initiates and the rain purifies. Andy steps into freedom with arms open wide to offer his full being to the cosmos. This posture is resurrection. This is Gnosis. His freedom reconnects him to the living current beneath Shawshank, the quiet will of those still dreaming toward the light. He does not disappear. He sends letters. He plants a seed. His liberation becomes a signal, a living invitation. His awakening is personal and collective. He remembers Red. He leaves a message. The work is done in silence, but it resounds within the stone. The prison may stand, but Andy's path cuts deeper. It opens a memory that even in the darkest systems, the self can still rise. Every act, each calculation, each letter mailed, each night spent chiseling behind Rita Hayworth, is an expression of will fused with soul. This is the soul learning to pass through shadow and carry light. Red's transformation begins with a whisper, a shift in the current. For years he watches. He narrates, he survives. But in watching Andy, he begins to remember something he had buried, the capacity to change. The postcard arrives like a message from another realm, a signal from the self, arriving in the quiet space the shadow had kept sealed for years. Red doesn't rush to understand it. He holds it. He walks with it. He listens. In that space of listening, something stirs. At his final parole hearing, Red drops the performance. No slogans, no pleasantries. He speaks with the weight of lived truth. His voice carries no expectation, only presence. The persona falls away, and the real self, the weary, wise, remembering self, steps forward. That moment is initiation. His release deepens the ritual. Outside the walls, the world feels vast and uncertain, but Red chooses not to return to the system he once revered. He walks a different path. His journey to the tree becomes pilgrimage, every step guided by trust. The volcanic glass rock, out of place yet gleaming, marks the spot Andy had named. The tree rises like a point where worlds meet, root and sky, past and future. There, Red finds the message, a hand reaching through time. The bus ride that follows is ascent. Red moves towards something older than freedom, wholeness. His path mirrors Andy's, but through a different gate. This is Red's way, guided by recognition, shaped by quiet witnessing, and sealed by the courage to choose a new direction. At the ocean's edge, Red chooses to live beyond survival. The reunion does not complete the story. It reveals its shape. Ego and shadow now move as a single current. Zihuatanejo waits as a memory of wholeness. It shimmers like a dream remembered just before waking. For Andy and Red, it exists as the culmination of everything they've become. This is the psyche's return to balance. The ocean stretches before them, vast, eternal, and alive. It carries the flow of the unconscious, wide and wild. The ocean welcomes. It surrounds and holds. It embodies the divine feminine, expansive, intuitive, and life-bearing. In its presence, the psyche softens, the body exhales. Zihuatanejo offers space, space to be, space to rebuild from fullness. It represents the sacred rebalancing, the return of the feminine principle that the prison sought to suppress. Here, action yields to presence. Movement yields to stillness. This is return. Andy sands the boat, the horizon opening around him. Red approaches across the sand, each step carrying him from years of shadow into light. Their eyes meet, arms open. Silence becomes communion. The embrace seals the journey, and the ocean breathes wholeness. This is synthesis. This is integration. The hammer carved the path, but Zihuatanejo reveals the reason. The tree marked the turning, but the ocean marks the wholeness. The journey ends where the self waits, in the open arms of inner knowing. There is no gate, no key, just the horizon, open and alive. This is home. Hope is a compass. It lives quietly in the soul, asking nothing but presence. In Shawshank, it weaves through silence, through letters, through years of steady chiseling. Hope can set you free. More than a quote, it's a call of individuation. It holds the thread that leads the ego toward the self. Hope initiates the journey, sustains the descent, and illuminates the return. In Andy, it becomes the seed. In Red, it becomes the bloom. The Warden retreats to his office, revolver in hand. His mask cracks. A gunshot ends his reign. The Archons face judgment, dragged into daylight. The walls still stand, yet the spell breaks. Something older stirs beneath their order. The shadow walks. The ego sails. Zihuatanejo reawakens a memory, not just for Andy and Red, but for anyone who dares to look inward. It is the landscape of integration, where silence becomes song and stillness reveals direction. The tunnel was never about escape. It was initiation. Each strike of the hammer, a reminder, the way forward is carved by those who remember who they are. The system doesn't dissolve from protest. It unravels from within when the soul refuses to forget its shape. So listen, in the quiet, in the long arc. The path is already forming. The tunnel isn't out there, it's inside. And you already have the rock hammer. If this journey opened a new lens or whispered something forgotten, hit like, drop a comment, and share it with someone walking their own path. For those who want to go deeper, we built Only Fire Remembers, a guide that weaves together the film analyses, dreamwork rituals, and an audio companion designed to turn story into practice. It lives on Ko-fi, along with ways to support the work. Link below. Subscribe for more myth, shadow work, and soul mapping through story. The myth continues.